Mark, good morning and welcome back to the Service to Civvy podcast. For the benefit of listeners and watchers, we had some technical issues in our first recording, so you've kindly offered your time to come back, and we're going to try again, aren't we? Mark Hill, MBE, CEO and founder of Reshape Media Group. How are you, sir? Good?
Good morning, Mark, and yes, all good here, thank you. Great to be back on Service to Civvy.
Good stuff. It's like you're a returning guest. I mean, I'm using this new platform in the hope that it gives a more professional, polished episodes. And the first one was a complete disaster, but we figured it out. So there we go. Anyway, Mark, welcome. Like I said, for the benefit of listeners, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit and just give us a little bit of a snapshot of your military background?
So my name is Mark Hill. I served 32 years in the Army. In 1987, did 22 years. Within that 22-year colour service, I left the Army and re-enlisted after a year being in Civvy Street. And I then re-enlisted again on a full-time reserve service contract, totaling 32 years. Now I've left the military, 3 years into civilian street, if you like.
What cap badges were you under, Mark, while you were serving?
So I joined the Duke of Wellington's Regiment, and then in 2006, with the amalgamations, it then became the Yorkshire Regiment, and today that is the Royal Yorkshire Regiment.
Yeah, got it. Okay, so I'm not going to beat around the bush. You've said there that you left and rejoined. So I want to just explore that a little bit, because I think there's probably people in a similar position. Maybe they're thinking about getting out. So I'd like to discuss that with you, what your thought process was for getting out, but also why then you decided to re-enlist. So if we just look at, first of all, the lead up to getting out the first time, how long had you served when you decided that was it for you?
So the first time of leaving was 9 years, at my 9-year point.
9. Was that the old type of contracts, Mark, where you signed up for 6, 9, 12 years, or was it open engagement?
Yeah, I think you're right. It was the 3, 6, 9-year point. So I'd done a course. I'd got RTU'd off that course, injured. I then I was in the recce platoon, in the infantry infantry battalion recce platoon. My battalion was deploying to Northern Ireland, and we became the COP, the Close Observations Platoon, which I really enjoyed it. I loved it. 2 years working in Northern Ireland and then coming back to England, it was almost like an anticlimax. And in that period, I got married and I decided I want to give Civvy Street a go, set up a family, and left the Army. I became a private investigator.
There you go.
I missed the Army. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. The payday wasn't till 2 to 3 months after doing jobs. So I re-enlisted and did the full colour service of 22, you could argue 23 years, that extra year where I needed my pension, leaving as a sergeant major.
So that 9-year point was a natural contract ending back in those days then, wasn't it? Where you had the choice to either, from what I remember, to either sign another contract if you were, I think, was it back then, Mark, where you were also at the behest of the military, right? Whether they would offer you to stay in as well. Is my memory correct, or am I a bit off target there?
Not sure, to be honest, but what happened was I actually paid myself out. I paid £200 for I can't remember the terminology now, but it was like an early release to go and get a civilian job and get a house in Civvy Street. It didn't work out, to be honest. I'd missed the Army. The grass wasn't always greener. So going back to your original question, people may be thinking now, what I would say, looking back, and hindsight is a good thing. Looking back, the Army, Navy, RAF, the forces is a great career choice. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. And through my work with veterans, and we'll probably come on to that later on. If I've heard it once, I've heard it a million times. For people who have left, I wish I'd stayed in longer. I wish I never got out. And the grass isn't always greener. I'm not saying people struggle, and many don't. Clearly, a life or a career in the forces is a good career.
Yeah. So just looking at the resettlement aspect then of leaving that first time, I'm assuming because you'd made that decision, you'd bought yourself out, settlement really wasn't on your, like, a planned resettlement wasn't really on your radar. Is that correct? Was it just like, I've paid, I want to get out, I want to get in Civvy Street and I want to set up and I want to crack on? Is
Yeah,
that right?
indeed. I mean, don't get me wrong. The course I failed and got RTU'd from, I attempted SAS selection, and then I did the
Okay.
cop platoon, recce platoon. So I was a very keen and highly motivated person, newly married, and wanting to set up a family, to leave. So a lot of people were quite kind of, oh, you will get out. You're a lifer,
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
I did. I got out, and of course, most people were right, and it was a learning experience for myself, and so I re-enlisted and cracked on with my career in the army. But yeah, it was a difficult time, and you're right. Of course, if you're leaving the military, and if you're in that mindset, I would imagine, right, that's it. Your focus has changed, and you want to leave as quick as you can to do the next chapter in your life.
yeah. So you didn't really like do any resettlement courses or, what was that like the first time getting out?
Yeah, well, the 2 years of leading up to that, whilst I was in the cop platoon in Northern Ireland, I did this home study course of the Medina Guild of Private Investigators. So I'd studied it,
Okay. Right, okay.
about pulling the pin towards the end when coming back to England from Northern Ireland, to a different role. I didn't go back to the recce platoon. I went to a rifle company. It just didn't feel right for me at the time, so I pulled the pin, as they say.
Yeah. What rank were you when you left then, Mark, first time round?
Yeah, so I left as a corporal, full corporal. I'd done
Best
my
rank in the
section
army.
commander's battle course. I'd done all the courses for section commander, junior Brecon, if you like, skill at arms, and the tactics side.
Yeah. Okay. How long were you out for then?
Um, 12 months, but it was
Right,
round
okay.
about probably the 4 to 5 month point when I realised, being a private investigator, wasn't spying on people, wasn't doing all
Yeah.
cheating wives or husbands. It was all about process serving. It was, I'd
Right.
get letters from, maybe the jobs I received were from other private investigators, maybe across the UK, where for time and money it were easier to second the jobs out. So
Yeah.
I would,
Yeah.
it was all, somebody may have defaulted paying on their BMW or something. I'd go, I was already given the address, knock on the door. You had to serve the papers to the right person, then go to court or see a solicitor, swear on the Bible, or do an affidavit, um,
Yeah.
pay that. But I wasn't getting paid for 2 to 3 months after. So
Yeah.
I did a couple of 3 to 4 jobs, and some of the jobs were quite airy and scary, with some of the places I went to. But I
Yeah.
decided to get back, and I ate the humble pie, and actually it took me some courage to ring up the adjutant of the battalion, and I said,
Okay.
sir, it's ex-Corporal Hill here. And he went, yeah, Corporal Hill, Corporal, come back tomorrow. And of course, you couldn't come back tomorrow. There's a process.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
took a good
Yeah.
another 6 to 7 months to get back in. I had to go back to ITC Catterick, Bimmy Barracks, to do a 2 week training course, if you like, to
Yeah.
remind and revise on the skills. Yeah, so I went to ITC. Actually, that 2 weeks I was supposed to be there. I was only there one day, down the admin office doing the paperwork. To be honest, I was as trained as the section commanders there. We'd all done the same battle
Yeah.
courses. I was fit still, keen, enthusiastic. Went to join my battalion in London, in Hounslow, and picked up the same rank. I re-enlisted as a corporal, and actually when I got back to the battalion, a lot of people have thought I'd been away on a posting, not realising I'd been out of the army. Seriously.
Because it had only been 12 months. Well, oh, you've
Yeah,
been off,
yeah,
yeah, on a debt or something.
yeah,
Yeah, weird, brilliant, fantastic. So you get back in then, and you spend the next what 13 years, something like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
back in the infantry, and then you're coming towards the end. That's where I want to like jump to, Mark, if you like. I don't want to be appear like I'm not interested in what you did, but there's a million podcasts out there of the Gucci stuff that we do, the soldiering stuff that we all get to do. And I really want to focus on what it's like to leave. So let's skip forward. When do you start thinking, because you've obviously gone through the ranks, Sergeant Major, are you thinking about commissioning at all towards the end?
Well, I was, there was talk when I had interviews with the colonel, with the commanding officer, of becoming an LE officer. Around about that time, there was a job that came up which was kind of affiliated to the regiment, to the battalion. It was Sedbergh School in the Yorkshire Dales. A lot of because they were really good at rugby. My battalion was kind of affiliated to rugby, so a lot of subalterns were coming through that way to join what was then the Yorkshire Regiment. So this job came up to look after the Combined Cadet Forces, the school staff instructor, and I was thinking about going for that, and I had good talks with the commanding officer who invited me round to his house. I did a presentation on what I'd was going to deliver at the interview, and he did say, he was more than happy to put me forward for late entry commission, but couldn't guarantee. So we decided I'd leave the forces and join this school in the Yorkshire Dales.
Okay, brilliant. So with that in mind, then you'd already secured a role. What did your resettlement look like then? Like your last 12 months, did you do any courses? Did you use your enhanced learning credits, or have you used those at all? Or what did that look like, Mark?
Yeah, so I've not used my enhanced learning credits yet. I've still got three lots left. I'm now able to
Right.
use two because of the time constraints. They run
Yeah.
out in
Yeah.
next year actually, 2026. Yes, I did CTP, the Career Transition Partnership, the 3 days you do, the CTW, the Career Transition Workshop, which is geared around CVs and how to put a covering letter together. So I did that. I used my graduated resettlement time GRT money, and
Yeah.
through CTP, through one of their courses, which was reduced in cost, I did the IOS Managing Safely, and
Okay. Yeah.
um, and I also did the NEBOSH General Certificate, and passing with distinction. So I was looking at the health and safety aspect of
Health
maybe,
safety
although I had that
type of
job
route.
in the school, what at the time, what could I do as an infantry sergeant major? What qualifications have I got? I didn't do very well in school, but I've got good qualifications. I've got my ILM at the time, like most people did, especially the level 5 diploma and 3 or 4 credits in level 7, which I've continued with now. So with that, I was thinking of the health and safety avenue.
Yeah. Just thinking back, Mark, what was the leaving process like the first time as opposed to the second time? Was there, and I don't mean like, administratively wise. I mean, did you see a difference in how the military approached people leaving between the first time and the second time? Like, were you, the first time was the people trying to convince you to stay? Was the less courses, resources, information available? How did that look between the first time and the second time?
Very, worlds apart. The first time, it's kind of a snap decision. I wanted to leave. It was my choice. It was in my mindset. I didn't think of. I think it was because I paid £200 to get out. It was within about 4 to 6 weeks, something like that. Yes, I went on my overseas interviews and they wanted me to stay, but I'd made that decision. And I think actually,
Yeah.
once you've made that kind of choice, the chain of command was supportive. Fast forward after the colour service, 22, 23 years, it was a different ball game in terms of I knew I was coming towards the end. I had that 2-year window to do that. I was a senior rank now, one of the sergeant majors in the battalion, so I had that kind of rapport. I was headquarters sergeant major, so I had that rapport with the colonel and the top corridor, if you like.
Yeah.
But what I will say is, where I did kind of failed myself, and I'd like to mention this for other people, because whether we're so busy or we just don't think about it, I know I'm talking now 22, 23-year career, but I also did 10 years FTRS, 32 years altogether. And in 32 years, I only use my standard learning credits once. So that's my own
Okay.
downfall. So I would
Yeah.
inspire others, year on year, use your £175, you pay your 20%, the service pays 80%, utilise your standard learning credits, because whether you're in the army or not, life is all around personal development, and that's standard learning credits, but people don't use it for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, I hardly use mine. I remember I didn't use mine, and I didn't use my enhanced learning credits until maybe 3, 4 years, 5 years maybe after getting out, because first of all, I didn't really know like where to use them, what they could be used for. It's only when I really, nobody sat me down and said, you've got these credits, this is what it means. These are some of the courses you can go and do. And it's only through when I was working professionally in the private sector and I started to find my way and, find a niche that I was interested in. I was started thinking about, okay, how can I get a little bit more kudos in this and respect in this profession that I'm doing? And it's through qualifications. Okay, what courses are there? Oh, I wonder if any are covered through, LCAS. And actually, two of the courses that I did were funded 80% by LCAS. One of them was a diploma in quality management through the British Standards Institute, and the other was, an ISO lead auditor course. I had
Well,
no idea when I was getting out that they
yeah,
were available.
and here's the thing, Mark. Whether you serve 10 years, 12 years, 22 years, if you say, for example, serve 10 years and never use your standard learning credits, when you then leave the military, you have nothing to pull on to kind of add value to your CV. If you did
Yeah,
10 years worth of standard learning credits, now is a different ball game, because now you can draw on 10 years of personal development
yeah,
qualifications and certifications within your CV. So that's the difference. But I'd also like to say, if anybody in the reserve forces, Army, Navy, RAF reserve forces, reservists are also eligible to use standard learning credits. So I would, if I
brilliant.
was in the reserves or the regulars, personal development, continuous professional development, I would use your standard learning credit. Otherwise, if you don't use them, you're not benefiting from that personal
Yeah,
development.
yeah, exactly. All right, so you finish your time then. You're off to Sedbergh. Was it a bit of a soft landing, would you say?
It was, yeah. I mean, the guy I took over, I had a really good handover takeover. The cadets were good. The school was good. I enjoyed life there. A bit like being in the army, really, because our quarter, the house we were kind of living in, was a bit like the military, where we paid a reduced rate, staff
Yeah,
rate, if you like. It was fantastic.
yeah,
Within the CCF, I looked after 4 sections: the Army, Navy, RAF, and the band. I did probably round about 18 months to 2 years at Sedbergh before the itch came to move along. Why did I move along? I think people who serve will get this. If you're in the military, well, me talking about me personally in the infantry battalion, every 2 years or so we were moving. We were moving to different locations, different roles. Knowing what I know now, people who leave the military, not everybody, but a lot of people, service leavers, don't seem to settle down in the first two or three
yeah,
jobs. It takes a bit of time for people to settle down. And of course, in Sedbergh, I loved it. It was fantastic. A nice part of the world, the Yorkshire Dales. But this job came up in the United Arab Emirates, doing something similar, but in the UAE.
yeah. I'm smiling, Mark, because I absolutely relate to what you've just said. Like when I left, I had itchy feet, and I couldn't initially. I couldn't quite put my finger on it because when I left, I was like, "That's it. That chapter's done, and it's gone. It's time to move on with life." But over the years, I'd sit down and I'd think, why have I got this urge to be moving? Why have I got this desire to be doing something different? Why do I feel like I need to be in another environment? And I was working out in Singapore for one company, and they got into some financial difficulties. Part of the group that I was working for was bought by a UK company. They had no presence in the Middle East. So they were looking for volunteers to go to the Middle East to help them set up there. My hand went up straight away. And it wasn't because, well, if I do it, I'm probably going to be securing my role. It's because, yeah, let's move. And I was living in Singapore, but a lot of people's dream would be to live in Singapore. But I'd been there just shy of 2 years, I think, maybe. And I was getting to the point of like, and it was then when I sat down and I thought, this is because I'm used to being posted every 2 or 3 years. And my body clock is telling me it's time to go, Mark. It's time to be on your toes. And, so I could absolutely relate to that. And I know we're not going to be alone in that. And I've been living where I am now since the end of 2018. And it's the longest I've stayed in one place for from 17 years old. And I'm 50 in a few weeks. It's the longest I've been in one place. And sometimes I sit here and I think, I'm ready for a move. I can feel it, but I'm here with my kids. So it's like, there's no way I'm leaving. Okay, great. So you finish at Sedbergh and then you're on your toes out to the Middle East. What were you doing out there?
So I was working for a civilian organisation, company, business, who had the contract for their military. And basically, it was delivering the same job, a bit like the Combined Cadet Force, but in schools for Emirati children.
Yeah. Did you enjoy that? Was it,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
was that?
loved it.
Yeah.
I could speak Arabic to a decent degree where I learned on Telic 5 and pre-Telic to speak Arabic. Albeit in the United Arab Emirates, everyone speaks good
Yeah.
English. But it was good to
Yeah.
study
Yeah. Yeah.
the language in schools. It kind of give you that bit more kudos with the kids and the teachers, and
Yeah.
yeah, and it was based on the British curriculum anyway.
Yeah.
The British Army, the drill. There's almost like three sections: the army, the police, and life skills. So, being a team leader,
Okay.
I covered all three, or looked after instructors from around the world to deliver that program, including local ex-army, should I say ex-army Emiratis.
Yeah. Were you a drill instructor, Mark, during your time?
In the army, because in the infantry you've got to go through those weapon
Yeah.
training, drill, all different courses you go on. So I'd done all that previously in the army, which were the skills
Yeah.
which were needed for that contract, and I loved it. It was fantastic. We lived in Dubai. I travelled every day. I covered schools in
Brilliant.
Abu Dhabi and Al Ain,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, all good things come to an end, and that
Yeah. Yeah.
contract after around about 2 years came to an end. And if you don't have a job in the UAE, wherever the
Yeah. You're
expats
on your
come from, you've
toes.
got to go back to your
Yeah.
home country, or leave
Yeah.
leave
Yeah.
the UAE.
Yeah. Yeah. I was out in Abu Dhabi for about a year and a half. I moved from Singapore to Abu Dhabi, and I was there for a year and a half. So yeah, I understand how it works out there. Um. Yeah. And asking about a drill instructor, the one I don't have many regrets from my time in the army, but if I could do it again, I used to love drill. I was RLC cat badge, but I used to love drill. There's just something about it that I absolutely fell it. I didn't mind the beastings during training. I thought it was fantastic. And if I could do my time again, one thing that I would want to do would be to go to depot as a section commander drill instructor. I'd love to do it because I just think that's where you really start to get team cohesion and teamwork, and people start to feel their pride, from being in the military. It's where you chest out, chin up, shoulders back, heels in, and you can really see the change in people when they start learning drill when they first come through the gate and they're a little bit shy, a little bit unsure of themselves, and get on the parade square with the band and all that sort of stuff. I absolutely loved
Yeah,
it.
and I would
Really,
say
I got best at drill on my NCO's card when I was with Royal Irish Regiment. I was with infantry guys. I did it with infantry guys, and I got best at drill. It
no,
was
well done,
amazing.
well done. And I would say those who have done the drill course will probably remember two things: one, a high mess bell at the end of the course, and number
Yeah,
two, marching yourself over to the bush and putting your head in the bush.
really brilliant. Um, right, so you finish in UAE. When was that, Mark?
So around about 2011, 2012.
Okay, wow, some time ago. What have you done since then?
So when I came back from the UAE, I then re-enlisted into 15 Brigade in York. I joined FTRS, Full-Time Reserve Service, Home Commitment. I was the Army Youth Engagement Officer. About 2 years in York, then it transitioned the same role. It just moved from York to 4 Brigade in Catterick Garrison.
Catterick. Okay. And what were you doing there, Mark? Like you say, youth engagement. Was that like a kind of like a cape type role, keeping the army in the public eye, schools and that
Kind
kind
of.
of thing?
It wasn't classed as recruiting. It was classed as engagement. But recruitment, engagement, the same thing really. Talking
Yeah,
about careers in the army. As a youth engagement officer, I was in uniform, but on the other side of the fence line, working in schools across the brigade area, Yorkshire and the North East, colleges, Department for Work and Pensions, just telling people about what a good career the army is, should they wish to join. But equally, I did a lot of work with the Army Cadets and doing a lot of kind of projects supporting the hardest to reach, doing STEM type activities, or science, technology, engineering, maths, team
yeah,
building, maybe doing command tasks and developing people's kind of world of work skills through leadership, teamwork, communication, problem solving, all those good things that the army teaches its young people. And the army really just take on, when I say young people in the military, we'll look at the infantry, for example. You can join their 16, 17, 18-year-old up to 24, 25, then you start becoming lance corporal, corporal sergeant. So the military is also about developing young people as well.
yeah. Okay. Do you have any success stories? I'm sure you do from your time doing that. Like, did anybody join, and then have you kept in touch with anyone, Mark, and followed their career per se?
Yeah, so in a collaboration of businesses and companies, me being part and heading it up from the army was the Armed Forces Employability Pathways, the AFEP. So if you were to Google the AFEP promo video, you'll see that online on YouTube. It was about businesses getting together, supporting the hardest to reach of young people. We took them for 5 days to Otterburn. We had an helicopter. They had rides in the helicopter, all team building stuff. And at the end of it, it wasn't really to get them to join the regular army. It was to get young people into the world of work through businesses who were signed up to the Armed Forces Covenant, maybe Bronze,
Right.
Silver
Okay.
Award, Silver, Gold
Yeah.
Award on the Defence Employer Recognition Scheme, and then to inspire people to join the reserve service. So there's a number of people did join the reserves, but one lad in particular joined the regulars. He joined the engineers. And I always remember one day he phoned me up around about Christmas. This lad came from a hard to reach, low social mobility area, very, very, family, 2, 3 generations on DWP benefits. And he phoned me up and said, just let you know, I'm in my unit now. Blah. I said, joking. I said, Mark, you mean sir? It's like me, you're in the army now, young man. I was joking. I was joking. And he said, it's great. He said, I said, it's good, mate, because you've now, you had a girlfriend, he said, now you can go home at Christmas, buy your parents a presents, you can take your girlfriend out, you can afford a present, where before he didn't have that kind of opportunity. And of course, today, if you join the British Army as an infantry soldier, you're on 25,000 plus a year. So, the
Yeah.
army is a good mobile social mobility uplift as well. So that's one good news story. this young lad.
Oh,
I'm really proud
fantastic.
that it had sorted him out in his life. I mean, and a few years later, I'd heard he'd been promoted to Lance Corporal, so I don't know where he is now, but yeah, it's
Brilliant.
given him his springboard into his, adulthood and his world of work.
And that just shows the talent that's out there untapped, Mark, doesn't it? You know, the engineers, it's not an easy unit to get into, not an easy cap badge to get into. Fantastic. Really, really like to hear that. So when did you finish that then, Mark? 10 years, 2022, something like that, I'm guessing?
Yeah, so I did. Sorry, Mark, you froze then. Could you ask the question again, please?
Ah, yeah. Yeah, just when did you finish that then, Mark? When did you finish up FTRS?
So I did just shy of 10 years, December 2021.
Okay.
I was headhunted for a job in Durham, and I went to see the Colonel. I said, Colonel, I think it's time to leave. I've explained about the job and everything else, and we mutual agreement. I worked in a brigade headquarters. You've got to leave sometime, Mr. Hills. Off I went. I then went through CTP resettlement with the CTP for the second time, and left the
Right.
army.
So you've been you've done resettlement 3 times then, Mark.
Yeah, yeah.
It's fantastic. So I know we want to get on to what you're doing now. Is that where this began? The end of your FTRS?
It did, yes. I mean, the job I went to, they were paying good money, and it was not too far from where I live. I live in Catterick Garrison. Again, hindsight is a great thing. If I'd have known what happened was what the next steps were, I wouldn't have left. I'd probably still be serving now in the FTRS role. Probably 14, 15 years now doing that. But what happened with the business I went to, it went into administration 10 months after. So
Okay.
everybody lost their jobs. Um, it was a charity, but whilst I was there, we did some good stuff. And one of the things we did in Catterick Garrison, we set up the Veterans Information Hub, and I went back into ITC to speak to the recruits once a week to give them a motivational lived experience, to inspire them on their next journey steps in their life. But when that finished with the business I worked at, I almost felt like I needed to carry on that work, like a
Okay.
responsibility, because the Veterans
Yeah.
Hub, it was combating loneliness and isolation. It was getting veterans, not all vulnerable, but getting them out of the house. And I wanted to continue that. It was a good thing to do because it didn't really cost any money. I used, through the collaboration with Defence Estates, through DIO, Defence Infrastructure, we're using them, and even to this day, we use that building as a drop-in, as a coffee morning. The only thing I pay for really is teas and coffees, which isn't onerous, and that's once a week on a Monday. And I continued that, and that's been going now for 3 years. But equally at the ITC, I go in there every Wednesday, voluntary, and give my lived experience to those recruits who are leaving the army early for whatever reason, just to inspire them to do what they want to do next in their next steps.
Yeah. Okay. So how has Reshape Media Group come about then?
So, working or volunteering in the Veterans Information Hub, the coffee morning every Monday. And because it's a Monday, the people that come there, if you're not working, then you can come. Obviously, if you're in work, you can't come. But I do get a lot of soldiers coming down in uniform for advice and guidance and support, mainly those who are maybe leaving the forces. But my exam question to me was, I was passionate and I'm energetic. How do I engage a wider audience? So I came up with the idea of, let's do a digital magazine. So I came up with the idea of service leavers website. So I bought the domain servicelevers.co.uk. When you leave the military, Army, Navy, RAF, you're classed, you are badged as a service leaver. When you finally leave the gates, you lose that badge, you then become a veteran. So the idea was,
Veteran. Yeah.
through a couple of friends in the Northeast, we were going to use the name Index. my index, service leavers. But what did I put a competition out to the hub, to the veterans, to see who can come up with the best name for the magazine. And one of the veterans, Niall, he said, well, let's call it Reshape. So, I can't take credit for the name. It's down to Niall. He's a good lad. And so we came up with the name Reshape. And it was born there. And it was always going to be digital, because in the army, and across the services, what's drilled into everybody, and you'll get this, whether you're on exercise or operations, at arm's distance is your rifle, arm's distance.
Yeah.
In Civvy Street, whether you've served or not, at arm's distance is a mobile phone. So originally it was going to be a digital functionality only, but later then transitioned into digital and hard copy.
So what is that then, Mark? Is it a magazine, a veterans magazine? What's in there? What kind of things do you put in there?
Yeah, so I often say, I mean, there's other magazines out there such as Pathfinder and Quest, and they were my go-to magazines when I was leaving the military. And, they're still about today, but I like to think that, and I put a lot of time and effort and thought into Reshape to see if it was needed. It wasn't replicating what was already out there. I was conscious of that, and I don't think it does. And I often say it's not just a magazine; it's actually a multimedia function that I give back to those who are leaving the service. So it's service leavers, it's for veterans, reservists, family members, and the actual. I've got around about 6 or 7 regular contributors now, writers, and then I add to that with other things. It's a magazine where I call a menu of choice. It's got lots of things in there, so it suits everybody to pick up the magazine or to read it online. But through the magazine, I've now created other multimedia kind of functions and tools and resources like Reshape 360, which is an app-style digital dashboard. We've done a newsletter that goes back into defence called SitRep. And so the magazine was originally for Catterick Garrison, but through my network and growth, it's now distributed on a national footing with the support of CTP. I've had their permission to distribute the magazine into all the CTP regional resettlement centres, which I'm very grateful of.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. So if people want to see the online version, what's the process for doing that, Mark? Is there a published version that people can see?
Yeah, so it's, as it says on the tin, service leavers with an S, servicelevers.co.uk. So if you go to the website, servicelevers.co.uk, on the first page, you'll see all the magazines. I'm now pulling together issue 12. It's like, crikey, where's it come from? From a year, just under 2 years, we're now on issue 12. The magazine comes out every second month, so it's bi-monthly, 6 magazines a year. And it's the articles are getting better. I'm getting better at putting things together. I'm really passionate about supporting those treading the same pathway equally to support those who are road and left. So the Reshape 360 app style kind of dashboard is on the website as well. You'll see one of the links on there, the landing pages. And what I've done is I've created new ones. I'm really getting into this. Most of the information is out there on the website, on the internet, on the web. But if you don't know where to look, you just won't know where this information is. So through my experience over the last few years, I've pulled this information together, created it in a digital format, eye-catching. You press buttons, links, it takes you to where that support is. So hopefully I'm putting together things under kind of one umbrella. And I say I'm getting better. There's new things coming out. And for me, it's good to get the information out to those who need that information.
And the drop-in centre on the Monday, is that open to everyone? How would you visit that if you were passing by, for example?
Yeah, that's open to everybody. It's in the garrison. It's on Lewes Road at the community centre. You can drop in. You could be service leaver, a member of the forces still serving, service personnel, a veteran. You could be family, somebody in the community that supports veterans. I'm only one person, so what I've learned, I bring in lots of other charities and support services who have got lots of support. Again, I've got that kind of menu of choice. So if a veteran comes to me and they're homeless or suffering with mental health or they're in debt, fuel poverty, they need this support, that support, I've got a resource contact network of where I can bring in people or signpost them to the right people in the right organisation at the right
Yeah.
time for that support.
Fantastic. You're doing stellar work, Mark. And I will put the link to serviceleavers.co.uk in the description. I'll also put your LinkedIn. I know you're very active on LinkedIn, Mark. So I'll put your LinkedIn profile down below as well so that people can contact you directly. Just going back to your leaving experience, was there anything that you were concerned about when and you've done it several times, so I guess you've learned something each time. But let's think about the first time you left, because look at it from a vulnerability um, viewpoint. Was there anything back then on that first time of leaving that you were concerned about? You didn't know that you wish you'd known? I know you said the grass was greener, but I'm talking more about, a practical um, preparation or what to do post leaving that you weren't sure of. What was your experience around that, and what advice can you share with people going through that same process now?
I don't think there was anything I was concerned about because it was a mindset that I wanted to leave. I was confident. We had a house to go to, which was mortgaged. And then by leaving, we struggled with the mortgage because the money wasn't coming in. I didn't have my army wage. But I think to give people advice, don't be hesitant. Um, people can. It's a fast pace of life today than it was then. People probably may see other opportunities in Civvy Street, which are maybe glossed over. And actually, when you do leave, they're not what you expect. The army's a different world at the moment. It's probably a busy space with lots going on, with exercises and preparation and pre-deployments. There's lots going on in the military. It's a busy time, but I would say don't be hesitant. Think about it. Of course, if you come into naturally your end of your career, your colour service, and you have to leave, you know that that's going to be planned. But anything before that, I understand people do have to leave through medical discharges. People have to leave through other circumstances, families, etc. But if you're not pressured that way, then I would seriously consider give it some time, park it to one side, speak to your chain of command, go to
Yeah,
your RCMO, speak to, your OC, your RO1, reporting officer one, and have that conversation, honest conversation, but try and park it and revisit it later, because later on you may think, actually, I'm glad I didn't press any buttons on JPA to get out,
yeah,
because once you're out, you're out. You can, yes, not everybody, but most people can, they can re-enlist, but re-enlistment isn't straight away. It's not an overnight
yeah,
thing. It's a prolonged progress, where you've got to go back to the careers office and wait for your money, for your, money and records from your division to get in touch with you. It's a process, and of course, in that process, people will find a civilian job, and move down and then pull away. And then years later, from my experience of speaking to lots of people regret it. They regret leaving.
yeah,
I wish I'd have stayed longer. I wish I didn't get out when I did get out. I wish I was back in. So if you're looking and thinking to leave, really think about your options, because look at the wage you are on at whatever rank you are. I'm not saying it's difficult, but it's almost, if I left as a sergeant major, I think sergeant majors today are on 50 plus thousand a year. I'm not saying it's impossible, but for most to command a 50,000 plus salary in Civvy Street, it's hard. It's hard work.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Mark, it's been absolutely amazing to talk to you. Honestly, it's such a varied journey that you've been on, and there's so much good advice in there. And the work that you're doing now, I mean, it just blows my mind. Thank you for, from me to you, but both ex-servicemen. But really, thank you, because I know there's a lot of people that support the veterans community, but I honestly think you're going well above and beyond what most people do. So thanks for that. I'm not going to let you run off straight away because you don't serve 32 years in the army without, you know, some dits to share. Is there something, Mark, from your service, and I'm sure there is, where you look back and you think that was a good giggle, and I'm not really sure how we got away with that. Like, I've done it, we've all done it, you know. So, is there anything you want to share without incriminating yourself, without your wife giving you a clip round the ear saying you never told me that? You know, that's
Yeah, I'm laughing obviously because we've had this conversation before on the
yeah,
version 0.1, and of course I
yeah,
can't remember what I said then. What I will say is when you look at my rack of medals, I do not have my LSNGC. I was a bit of a allegedly a bit of a jack the lad. I was caught in a few things, but what I would say is,
yeah,
yeah, I was a young lad at the time, and things happen. But yeah, it's great to be out now, and those there's lots of veterans doing well. Recently this
yeah.
week I've been very honoured to be shortlisted for the English Veterans Awards. I was down there early this week at the filming, and I walked into this room. It was oozing with inspiration and highly motivated, veterans from across Army, Navy, RAF, and they're all
Brilliant.
fantastic in their own rights. And I've been shortlisted for this year's Building Heroes Awards, and again, absolutely fantastic to see veterans, entrepreneur veterans, veterans own businesses, veterans doing well in businesses and organisations. So,
Yeah,
be assured that when people leave the military, you've got these fantastic transferable skills that you can take with you. You don't just leave them at the gates. You are that person. And this week has been a great example, seeing the English Veterans Awards, Sean Molino, an outstanding veteran himself, pulling all this together. And when I walked into that room early this week, it was like, wow, there's so many inspiring people here from service who have,
yeah.
transitioned and clearly done well in in Civvy Street, if you like. So their service to Civvy has been outstanding.
Fantastic. Oh, that's great to hear. I just don't want to embarrass you, but you've mentioned you don't have your LS and GC, but what you do have is an MBE. What's the backstory to that, Mark? Congratulations, by the way, but what's the backstory to your MBE?
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. And again, the backstory to the MBE was, you know, things happen for a reason. I was in Dubai, living in Dubai and the UAE. I'd still be there today if that contract was there. But things happen for a reason. People leaving the military. Sometimes you don't want to leave, but you have to leave, and things happen for a reason. What happened was I came back to the UK. I did the FTRS role. About 2 years into that, 18 months, 2 years into it, I gave it my all, my experience of being youth engagement officer for the army, and we did a lot of work. And through my efforts, the brigade commander put me forward, and I received an MBE for my youth community work. I was very lucky, very honoured. Me and my family went to Buckingham Palace, and you don't know until the day who you're going to meet, who's going to be presenting
All
the
right, okay.
MBEs. So I turned up, and on this particular day I was there. It was the late Queen, Her Majesty the Queen, who
Wow,
presented me with the MBE, and what a fantastic
fantastic.
honour, privilege,
Yeah, I
amazing.
can imagine, mate. Yeah,
Absolutely amazing. So what's
as
that
a
done for me?
serviceman.
That's really inspired me to move forward in supporting not just veterans, but in the garrison. I support a lot of schools with a high percentage of service children. And what I've done, I've kind of pulled together and commissioned two two awards for young people. So now in its second
Brilliant.
year, one is for the best endeavour in sport and excellence in STEM. So to support young people, I'm very
Yeah,
inspired to help the next generation of business leaders and entrepreneurs.
yeah, good stuff, Mark. Fantastic. It's been, like I said, it's been absolutely amazing to speak to you, and I'm glad that we've got through this without the same technical glitches that we had the first time. And I'm really looking forward to putting this episode out because it is full of, useful information for people. So thanks for giving your time twice, Mark. It's really much appreciated, and I wish you well in the initiatives that you're running. And thanks for giving your time to Service to Civvy. Have a great weekend, Mark.
You too. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
No problem.